Hi guys, my name is Robert Walter, aka Buddy, and I'm here on GoFundMe to hopefully start up a business to help me out. Give you a little history about myself. For 35 years I worked and volunteered in EMS, or emergency medical services, or a paramedic, however you want to portray that. And also for 35 years I was a volunteer firefighter. In 2013, I was at work transferring a patient from the stretcher onto the bed, and I ended up slipping and falling. Luckily, the patient did not get injured and she was landing in the bed, but I screwed up 5 vertebrae in my back. I can't sit for no more than 10 minutes at a time. I can't stand for long periods of time. Due to my injuries, I'm also a diabetic, and that caused diabetic neuropathy in both my legs and feet, basically from the waist down, and from the elbows down in both my arms and hands. I also have diabetic retinopathy, which means I'm blind in my right eye. It's in my right eye right now, and my vision is 2400 and 20/40 in my left eye, so I can still legally drive. I just barely passed that, but I have to receive a shot once a month in my right eye. Hopefully, they can get some of the vision back in my right eye, but I will end up being permanently. I will have permanent damage to this eye. So basically, I can't. If I close my eye, I can't see. I can't even see the camera right now. But I got a big black circle in the middle of my eye that causes the blindness. Also, I'm an insulin-dependent diabetic, so I am disabled. Thanks to Obamacare. Unfortunately, I can't. I've been trying to get on to Social Security disability. Because I got injured at work, I ended up taking workman's comp until I had to do a settlement because they weren't doing anything for me. And the doctor took me out of work, told me I can't do my job no more. They did have me on light duty for a couple months, then the doctor took me out of work. And from there I had to figure out what to do next. So I applied for Social Security disability. I gotta go in front of a judge for him to decide whether or not I can, and that will be anywhere from 6 months to a year before the judge will make a decision, and that'd be another 2 months after that before I hear anything from Social Security disability. I was working with North Carolina Vocational Rehab. They help you. They sent me to doctors and try to figure a way to get me back to work, or doing work on something else, so where I can have either a part-time job or a full-time job. And unfortunately, with my injuries, at this time they couldn't find anything. The only thing that they suggest is that I do work from home, and they don't have anything set up in their program for it, or become my own boss. And after thinking that, I decided to do something. Back in the late 80s and in the 90s, yes, I'm 52 years old. Yes, I'm an old man. But back in the late 80s and 90s, I had a reef tank. I had a 120-gallon reef tank. And I had corals in this. I had fish. I had 2 clownfish out that would breed in the tank, and I would end up raising the babies and going to the local fish store and trade the fish for corals. And then I would start propagating some of my corals and selling it back to the saltwater store that I bought everything from. So I did that until I got married, and then I had to move and sold my tank, sold all my corals, and moved to another state. Well, now I'm divorced, but that's beside the point. But since I'm in this, since I've done it before, I figure I want to do something with my life and be able not to be to start a business to where it will support me. I'm currently, because of my things, the money for my settlement from workman's comp has run out. I had to move in with my mother. She's on a very fixed income. She's on Social Security, so she's on a very fixed income. So it's kind of tight living here. I have food stamps to help pay for the food here in the house, but I don't want to be on government payroll, if you know what I mean. And the only thing I can do is work from home. So I figured I will see if I can start a saltwater breeding system, primarily starting off with clownfish and maybe going to cardinal fish, and also growing and propagating corals and frags. And so I got, in this area that I live right now, there's 3 saltwater stores roughly in a half hour distance from my house. And that I've talked to them, and they said that if I can breed fish and the corals, because they are propagated, they would be considered captive bred or captive collected corals. It does a couple things for them. It allows them to sell the fish or corals and not have to order those corals from somebody who's taking it out of the ocean, or the fish and taking them out of the ocean. And so I've been thinking, and the way to do it properly, I need some money. And unfortunately, I've tried everything. I can't work, so I can't I can't go work and raise the money for myself. But once I get this business up and going, I'll work. I have my nephew help me out and pay him something once I start making money out of this, and maybe hire a couple more people. But what I like to do is propagate, breed clownfish, and there's over 20 different varieties of clownfish. For every clownfish that I sell, that's one clownfish not taken out of the ocean, off the reef. For every once I start growing the corals and fragging them or propagating them, and those frags grow, and I sell those frags, that's one less coral that's taken from any of the reefs around the world. We got reefs off in North Carolina, where I live right now. I mean, we got reefs off the key, and reefs are very important to the ocean environment and for some of the land, because the reefs actually keep the water in check. So if we are taken from the reef, we will end up destroying the reef or the environment of the reef, and the reef can stop growing. So one of the reasons why I want to start propagating is I already have a history of propagating and successfully breeding clownfish. And the equipment nowadays, this is back in the 80s and 90s, the equipment nowadays, it's a lot easier. It's just more expensive, but it's a lot easier. And what I like to do is, because I'm living with my mom right now, and she really doesn't have much room in her house for me to set up a good breeding farm and propagating farm. What I'd like to do is build an extension off her garage and then set up what I would call a fish room, where I can breed these fish, set up breeding tanks, set up fry tanks, set up grow tanks, set up racks for the coral, the frags for the corals and stuff like that. Set up tanks for those in that extension. And this is set up, this equipment for the fish and stuff like that is not this for the equipment, not the tanks and the equipment to run the tanks. If I do this correctly, it will cost me roughly about $40,000. The fish themselves, mating pairs, sell from anywhere from $200 to $500 a pop. That's a pair. That's a mated pair. And the corals themselves, they're expensive. So I would start doing that, but it takes money to do that, plus the extension, building the addition onto the back of my mother's garage. So that's one of the things I like to end up doing. This will, once I get this set up, it's going to take a while for everything to start rolling. It's going to take at least 8 months before I can actually start breeding the clownfish, unless I luck out and get a mated pair that love the tank right off and they start breeding. And then it'll take time for the fries to grow out. So it'll take, once the eggs are hatched and the fries or the baby fish happen, it take anywhere from 6 to 8 months before I can sell them, because they have to be a certain size and you gotta grow them. So that's one of the advantages. That's one of the things that takes time before I can start seeing money. Propagating corals, depending on the coral, it will take anywhere from 4 to 6 months to start growing the corals to where I can propagate them. And then once I start propagating them, the frags themselves will take another 2 months to 4 months before I can actually sell them, knowing that they're healthy and they're growing. So that way it takes time for the corals themselves. So this all takes time. So I need money to live off of also. So I'm asking for $150,000. But any amount of money that I can raise would be good. If I can at least raise $40,000, I can maybe do part of it in my bedroom, and then just start going from there. So I would appreciate it. Any money that is donated, any amount of money, even if it's 5 cents, I would appreciate it. Like I said before, for 35 years I protected the communities I lived in. I saved lives as a paramedic, I saved lives as a firefighter. And a volunteer firefighter makes $0. Paramedic doesn't make that much. As a paramedic, you don't make much money. You end up having to work 2 jobs just to be able to make ends meet. So I wasn't able to save money in my 35-year career. Of course, I was married and divorced, and my ex-wife took a lot of that money too. But for the past 4 years, I've lived off of my settlement, and that money ran out. Now I'm penniless and living in my mom's house. She's supporting me. The only thing I have is food stamps, helping her out with the food. So if you like to donate, please donate. I would appreciate it. I'd like to thank you for watching this video, taking your time to watch this video, and you all